Hello, everyone. This is Kimihira from Right to Believe. Thank you for joining me today. This video was created for all of you who have reached out asking for more details about the recent evaluation from the Commission. First off, before I start, I want to say thank you for all of you who submitted your letters to the Commission. There was an overwhelming response from all of you, and the Commission definitely noticed us. But unfortunately, they made an unexpected conclusion. So I will be going through the evaluation report from the Commission on Judicial Disabilities and Tenure. If you go to the righttobelieve.org website, there's a tab on the top that lists global outcry, and you'll find a report that was made by the Commission on Judicial Disabilities and Tenure. This was a report that basically was sent to the President of the United States about the reappointment of a judge in the DC Superior Court. The problem with this report is that it's full of errors and it ignores the voice of concerned people and glossing over Judge Cordero's unconstitutional rulings that infringe on our First Amendment, especially our religious freedoms. So in the last page of this report, this was what the Commission said, that we therefore determine Judge Laura A Cordero to be well qualified for reappointment. So there's three actually decisions that this commission can make related to the decision to whether or not to reappoint this judge. And they can either decide whether she is well qualified, and this is for judges whose work product, legal scholarship, dedication, efficiency, and demeanor are exceptional on the bench, and the candidate's performance consistently reflects credit on the judicial system. They can also determine whether or not she is qualified. And if she's qualified, he or she is satisfactorily performing his or her assigned duties, or whose strong positive attributes are materially offset, but not overborne by negative traits. Or the judge can be considered unqualified, and the judge is unfit to be serving in the judiciary. So from our understanding of Judge Laura Cordero, can we really say that Judge Laura Cordero was well qualified, that the commission deemed her to be? Absolutely not. Let's look at this report a bit. So Judge Cordero provided in her personal statement of listing her reasons for being qualified, she included the UCI case as one of the three examples cited to show her competence. So this means that she considers her handling of this case to be exemplary. And this is worrisome because it suggests that she would handle other cases in the same manner she handled the UCI case. But the Commission's report is questionable. The Commission conducting this evaluation submitted a report full of numerous egregious factual errors. It was sloppy and unprofessional, with many misrepresentations and a blatant lack of due diligence. So in the report, they said it should be noted that the Commission has received approximately 5,000 emails objecting to Judge Cordero's decision in this case. This was because the Commission called for input from the public about Judge Cordero during her process for reappointment evaluation. This is a response from those who have been affected by Judge Cordero's decision with her summary judgment ruling. And it's the Commission that noted that there have been a substantial amount of submissions made related to this case. And yet, they dismiss the voice of the people. This number of 5,000 should show that there is a large body upset about how this case was handled. 5,000 emails represents tens of thousands of people from around the world. This should call to the court and commission and bring to the commission's attention that the case is negatively impacting a global religious body. This should clearly show there's a schism within the unification movement, and that Dr. Moon leads a large faction claiming they are the true followers of Reverend Moon's legacy, vision, and work. This case is, in fact, a religious dispute. So why does the Commission ignore the First Amendment and religious bias complaints? If they read each message that was submitted, that they should have seen even in these messages that there were other religious leaders, different religious communities in Washington, D.C., as well as D.C.-based nonprofits. So it's not just people from the unification movement who expressed their concern about Judge Cordero's misconduct. And they should also take note that the dangerous precedent that was set by how this case has been handled. So they dismissed our voices, and they made a jaw-dropping conclusion. In the Commission report, they said that although the email sharply criticized Judge Cordero's legal reasoning, that is an issue that is not within the Commission's purview to consider. But that is false. We did our research. We know complaints cannot address the decision itself, but need to address the judicial misconduct. And we address different points of concern. Actually, the survey that was made by the Commission asked for the evaluation from the public on Judge Cordero's bias, her discrimination, and lack of professionalism and respect and due diligence. So we answered these questions. All the emails, if you look at all the emails that are focused on Judge Cordero's misconduct and how she handled this case, they address matters such as religious bias and religious discrimination, judicial overreach. Courts cannot make decisions on matters of religion, and in a religious dispute, a judge cannot decide which faction is right or wrong. There was unprofessionalism, sloppy work, and lack of due diligence. And there's a lack of due process, and Judge Cordero unilaterally decided, made her decision in a very complex case, because highly contested issues are to be decided by trial jury, and that did not happen. The Commission contradicts itself. The Commission said that it could not consider the 5,000 emails that sharply criticized Judge Laura Cordero's legal reasoning because that issue is not within the Commission's purview to consider. But before and after this sentence are instances where the Commission is considering and making statements about Judge Laura Cordero's legal reasonings. It states all three cases that she submitted were well-reasoned, clear and concise, and meticulous as to the facts and the law, and it resulting in an opinion that was quite persuasive. So how can the Commission say that it's not within their purview to consider Judge Cordero's legal reasoning, but with both statements before and after pertain to Judge Cordero's legal reasoning? Can they address this or not? If they can, why can't they take the 5,000 emails into consideration? Can they only take into consideration positive content and disregard critical content? So the evaluation was sloppy and full of factual errors. The entire report only evaluates one case in detail, the Family Federation for World Peace and Unification versus UCI case. It's interesting because if you look at this report, they do list the three exemplars, but one exemplar is basically a case that is articulated in detail, and that is the UCI case. But interestingly enough, this section is full of errors. So let's go to that section right now. The Commission says that Judge Cordero originally dismissed the case on lack of subject matter jurisdiction due to religious abstention. This is their first error. This is false. Judge Laura Cordero did not dismiss this case. Judge Anita Josie Herring was the one who initially dismissed this case due to religious abstention. If you look at the earlier documents, public documents, you can see that Judge Anita Josie Herring did indeed dismiss this case initially. The commission also says that this case was reversed by the District of Columbia Court of Appeals. This is also wrong because it contradicts facts of the case. Judge Cordero did not dismiss the case, and therefore her quote-unquote dismissal was not reversed by the Court of Appeals. Third, Judge Cordero did not heed the guidance of the appellate court. The commission writes, her final opinion in this case, however, carefully tracked the guidance provided by the appellate court as noted above. This is false because the appellate court decision, you have to actually understand the really complex and complexities of this case, and also follow the timeline really well. When Judge Anita Josie Herring dismissed this case initially, the Family Federation appealed, and it was the appeals court that basically brought this case back to the lower courts for review again. But the appeal court basically said that this case must be dismissed if it becomes apparent to the trial court that this dispute does in fact turn on matters of doctrinal interpretation or church governance. So Judge Cordero did not carefully track the guidance provided by the appellate court. She was given the opportunity to look deeper into the issues. If she would have held a hearing or did due diligence to understand the facts of the case, she would have realized there's a religious schism going on, and that this case does in fact turn on matters of doctrinal interpretation and church governance. Fourth, this case is still going on. It says her final opinion in this case was quite persuasive. This is false and inappropriate because the case is still going on. Judge Laura Cordero's opinion in this case is not the final opinion. Major decisions about the case are yet to come. Therefore, it is quite inappropriate for the commission to write that her final opinion in this case was quite persuasive. Lastly, they said that this case was affirmed on appeal. This is wrong because Judge Cordero's decision has not even been appealed yet. Judge Cordero issued the summary judgment. Currently, we are awaiting Judge Jennifer Anderson's decision on the remedies or her dismissal of the case. Therefore, Judge Laura Cordero's decision has not been appealed. Therefore, her final opinion has definitely not been affirmed on appeal. So the commission is unqualified to make this evaluation. It's full of egregious errors. This is an official report from the Washington, D.C. Commission on Judicial Disabilities and Tenure to the President of the United States. This type of official report should not have these type of glaring factual mistakes. 5 mistakes within just one section. Can you imagine that? Describing one particular case. This is sloppy work, and it's a failure to check the facts. It shows the commission's lack of due diligence here. And this calls into question the quality of the commission's evaluation. The commission states that all 3 of Judge Laura Cordero's exemplary cases are deemed well-reasoned, clear and concise, and meticulous as to the facts and the law. However, after hearing this review, is this evaluation well-reasoned, clear, and meticulous to the facts and the law? It is not. The commission is not qualified to make this evaluation if this is their level of work. So how will Judge Cordero and Washington, D.C. Superior Court respond? Will the Superior Court and would Judge Cordero address these errors in the evaluation and report to the President? I'm sure that Judge Cordero, she was copied on the evaluation report about her tenure to the White House, so she should see the factual errors and misrepresentations made in the report. In fact, both the Superior Court and a Court of Appeals should recognize these factual errors. But will they correct them? Will the Commission and D.C. courts consider the 5,000 emails that were submitted? There's complete corruption and disregard for religious freedom if we let this go on. Judge Cordero will continue to act in ways that go against religious freedoms and First Amendment rights. It goes to reinforce the hugely damaging precedent that the case sets for religious groups and board-governed nonprofits. The Commission will continue unchecked, producing more recommendations in a sloppy, irresponsible, and unprofessional manner. The Commission was created to address issues with the judicial system and resolve complaints brought to their attention about judges or the judicial process. This evaluation shows they are not fulfilling that role and that the judicial system and its judges are going unchecked and uncorrected. So we acted. We are demanding our freedom. We are demanding accountability and integrity because we all have the right to believe. I want to read to you an article that Right to Believe sent as a press release. It's entitled, Right to Believe, Religious Freedom Threatened by Untouchable D.C. Judge. There's growing concern in our nation about the unconstitutional overreach of the judiciary in religious affairs. In courtrooms around the country, activist judges are rendering judgments that are collectively eroding the right to religious freedom protected by the First Amendment. The commissions formed to oversee the appointments of these judges are often failing to hold them accountable. One such travesty is currently playing out in our nation's capital. Judge Laura A Cordero of the Washington, D.C. Superior Court issued an unconstitutional summary judgment ruling in the case 2011, case number 003721B, which effectively gave legitimacy to one religious faction over another in an ongoing religious schism within the unification movement, founded by Reverend Sun Myung Moon. Now, entering its 9th year, the case explicitly involves questions of religious polity, structure, and theology. Historically, courts have properly abstained from any involvement in the internal affairs of religious entities as required by the First Amendment. Yet, despite the facts being disputed by both parties, Judge Cordero issued a ruling that decided the issues in question without a jury trial. At a minimum, Judge Cordero should have held a hearing to consider evidence and arguments of the parties involved and should have followed proper protocol for summary judgment, which requires the party seeking summary judgment to show there is no genuine dispute of any material fact. Judge Cordero also ignored the appellate court's caution that the case must be dismissed if it becomes apparent to the trial court that this dispute does in fact turn on matters of doctrinal interpretation or church governance. As such, Judge Cordero set a dangerous legal precedent by unilaterally ruling on the doctrine, hierarchy, and leadership of a religious entity. Not only has she trampled on the First Amendment by involving herself in a religious schism, but she also engaged in a religious discrimination by favoring one side's unproven claims over the other's evidence-backed claims. Compounding this injustice, the D.C. Commission on Judicial Disabilities and Tenure, the Commission, issued its report to President Trump, awarding Judge Cordero a well-qualified reappointment on April 27, 2020. This decision was rendered despite numerous factual misrepresentations and 5,000 emails to the Commission objecting to her reappointment due to the First Amendment violations and her religious bias in the above-mentioned case. Though thousands of people of faith collectively decried her discrimination against their faith, their voices were callously dismissed by the Commission. But the Commission's report reveals a government agency contradicting itself, issuing falsehoods to the president. One example of the report's many contradictions pertains to the 5,000 emails referenced above. The report says the emails the Commission received sharply criticized Judge Cordero's legal reasoning, but that legal reasoning is not within the Commission's purview to consider. Yet, in the same paragraph, the Commission states Judge Cordero's ruling was quite persuasive, as well as well-reasoned, clear and concise, and meticulous as to the facts and the law. By what parameters other than legal reasoning can the Commission say her opinion was quite persuasive and well-reasoned? It is contradictory, dishonest, and disrespectful for the Commission to give this praise to Cordero, while in the same paragraph dismissing thousands of emails with the claim that legal reasoning is not within the Commission's purview to consider. And it is simply irresponsible and inappropriate for the Commission to praise the opinion issued by a judge against a party in a case that is still ongoing. The report contains many other falsehoods. According to the report, Judge Cordero originally dismissed the case on lack of subject matter jurisdiction due to religious abstention. This is false. The case was dismissed by Judge Anita Josie Herring in 2013, not by Judge Cordero. The report claims that Judge Cordero's decision was affirmed on appeal. This is another outright falsehood. A cursory glance at the docket of the case reveals that Judge Cordero's decision was never appealed. As such, there is no way for it to be affirmed. Since no punitive action ever took place, there could have been no appeal. All this information about judicial activity that is blatantly false and misattributed is being utilized to exaggerate the performance of a judge and to give her the highest possible rating. The report on Judge Cordero's reappointment by the Commission reveals the worst elements of cronyism. Not only is the report riddled with contradictions and outright falsehoods, but it demonstrates a willingness to go to any length to rubber stamp the reappointment of sitting judges, regardless of their performance. The examples here are a few of the misrepresented facts that aided in giving Judge Cordero the highest possible rating. But one can only wonder what other facts were twisted to make her case. A quick check on this Commission's record concerning reappointments shows that 31 judges have come up for review in the last 13 years, and that every single judge was given the well-qualified designation. According to the Commission's own policy, the well-qualified designation is reserved only for those judges whose work product, legal scholarship, dedication, efficiency, and demeanor are exceptional. So this is important to understand, because once a judge is deemed well-qualified, then it bypasses the president's decision to accept them into the courts. If the judges received just a simple qualified appointment, qualified mark, then it is meant to be put on the president's hands for the president to decide. So if judges ignore due process and violates the First Amendment and is yet considered exceptional, what does that say about the integrity of a judicial system? Judges should uphold the Constitution and follow proper judicial procedure. Oversight commissions should make every effort to conduct due diligence on judges' cases before reappointing them to the bench. But there's no oversight for these judges, this commission, to appoint judges. When a commission makes a decision, who's checking on the due diligence? Who's making the due diligence to check if their work is good, of good quality, and is of pertaining to the facts of the matter? So we must hold judges and the judicial appointment process accountable so that this nation can continue to be an exemplar of religious freedom and the rule of law. This press release was sent by the President of Right to Believe herself. We are continuing to act, and we are continuing to fight for such an egregious decision that was made by the commission, for a judge that has made such an unconstitutional ruling with their summary judgment that is setting tremendously bad precedents for future cases. We have to hold our judiciary accountable. We all have the right to believe. I would like to end this segment with an appropriate quote. This quote is from Patrick Henry, one of America's founding fathers. He's the one who famously said, "Give me liberty or give me death." Patrick Henry said, "Power is the great evil with which we are contending. We have divided power between three branches of government and erected checks and balances to prevent abuse of power. However, where is the check on the power of the judiciary? If we fail to check the power of the judiciary, I predict that we will eventually live under judicial tyranny." I'll end with that. Thank you for joining me. Catch you next time.